Good evening, children. Nana Janet here. I'm going to read you a lovely story, a traditional story. It's for girls and boys according to this book, and it's one I know very well. I don't know if they've changed it a bit since I last read it, but we all know it from when we were children. Hansel and Gretel by the brothers Grimm, but I think they've spelt Hansel wrong. Well, I suppose they just change it over the years, but never mind. I think you will enjoy this story. So when you're sitting comfortably, Jude, Abraham, Chad, and Aricha Mary, and Nehemiah Rose, who have won this week on the 10th. Oh, it's not long, is it? 3 more days and you're won. And I should be there, shouldn't I? In Bristol. But I can't travel. Can't wear a mask, won't wear a mask, so we're stuck. They're locking everywhere down again anyway. Alright, love you all and enjoy this story. At the edge of a forest lived a poor woodcutter and his wife, a spiteful woman, and their 2 children, Hansel and Gretel. They were very poor, so there was often very little food on the table. One day there was no food at all. Everyone went to bed hungry. That night Hansel heard his mother tell his father, "Husband, there are too many mouths to feed. You must leave the children in the forest tomorrow." What do you think of that then? What a thing to say to the poor little children, eh? "Wife, I cannot abandon our children. There are wolves in the forest," said the poor woodcutter. But his wife made him agree to her evil plan. Hansel felt his heart grow icy cold, but he was a clever boy, and so he slipped out of the house and filled his pockets with shiny white stones. The next morning they all rose early, and the children followed their father deep into the forest. He lit them a fire and told them he was going to gather wood and would be back to collect them. He left them, tears falling down his face. The day passed slowly. Hansel kept their fire going, and when night fell it grew very cold, and they could hear all kinds of rustling under the shadowy trees. Gretel could not understand why their father had not come back to collect them. So Hansel had to tell her that their mother had told the woodcutter to leave them there deliberately. "But don't worry, Gretel," he said. "I will lead us home." And in the moonlight he showed her the line of shiny white stones that he had dropped from his pocket one by one, as their father had led them into the forest. They were soon home, where their father greeted them with great joy, but their mother was not pleased. Some time passed. They managed to survive with very little to eat. But another day came when Hansel heard his mother demanding that the woodcutter leave them in the forest again. And when Hansel went to collect some more pebbles, he found the door locked and he couldn't get out. In the morning their father gave them each a piece of bread and led them even deeper into the forest than before. All day long Hansel comforted Gretel and told her that this time he had left a trail of breadcrumbs to lead them safely back home. But when the moon rose and the children set off, there was not a breadcrumb to be seen. The birds had eaten every last one. There was nothing to do but to go to sleep and to wait until the morning. The next day they walked and walked, but they saw nothing but trees, and the next day was the same. By this time they were not only cold and hungry, but deeply frightened. It looked as if they would never be able to find a way out of the forest. But just as it was getting dark, they came to a clearing, and there stood a strange house. The walls were made of gingerbread, the windows of fine spun sugar, and the tiles on the roof were brightly striped sweets. Hansel and Gretel could not believe their luck, and were soon breaking off bits of the house to eat. Then a little voice came from inside. "Nibble, nibble, little mouse, who is that eating my sweet house?" Out of the front door came a very old woman. She smiled sweetly at the children and said, "Dear ones, you don't need to eat my house. Come inside and I will give you lots to eat, and you shall sleep in warm beds." Hansel and Gretel needed no second asking. They were soon tucked up, warm and full of hot milk, ginger biscuits and apples. They both fell asleep quickly. Little did they know they were in the worse danger than ever before. The old woman was a wicked witch, and she had decided to make Gretel work in the kitchen, and worst of all, she planned to fatten up Hansel so she might eat him. The very next morning she locked poor Hansel in a cage and gave Gretel a broom and told her to clean the house from top to toe. In the evening the witch fed Hansel a huge plate of chicken, but she only gave Gretel a dry hunk of bread. But once she was asleep, Hansel shared his meal with Gretel. So they lived so for many days. The witch could not see very well, so every morning she made Hansel put his finger through the cage so she could tell how fat he was getting. But clever Hansel poked a chicken bone through the bars so the witch thought he was still too skinny to eat. After many days, she grew fed up and decided to eat him anyway. She asked Gretel to help her prepare the big oven. The witch made some bread to go with her supper, and when the oven was hot, she put it in to cook. When the bread was ready, the witch asked Gretel to lift it out to cool. But Gretel was clever too. She pretended she couldn't reach the tray. And when the witch bent down inside the oven, Gretel gave her a great shove and closed the door. And that was the end of the witch. Gretel released Hansel, and together they set off once more to try to find their way home. After all their adventures, fortune finally smiled on them, and they soon found the path home. Their father was simply overjoyed to see them again, and what, you might ask, of their mean mother? Well, the poor woodcutter had not had a happy moment since he left the children in the forest. He had become so miserable that she decided there was no living with him. The day before Hansel and Gretel returned, she had up sticks and left. That served her right, didn't it? That's the end of that. So Nana Janet is going to say God bless and good night. And a very happy birthday to you twins for this week. I hope I'll say another story to you before then, but happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear twins. Happy birthday to you. Love you all. God bless. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.